Roar!
Ew.
Hello and welcome to Pony&Wolf Productions. Today we'll be reading The Master of the Meta Deck. As always, these are our amazing Patreons. Link is in the description if you wish to join. And shall we get to it? Now I'm going to place a flight energy on this dinosaur here. Then I'm going to play a teammate card. Opanoxia allows me to draw 3 cards. Twilight took 3 cards from her deck, putting them into her hand. Slowly but surely she surveyed the new card. 2 cis cards, and a stage 2 monster. A frown settled on her face. Problem? Pinky asked, a grin forming on her own face. Twilight scoffed. Please, Pinky. I know this game like the back of my hoof. You're supposed to take your time examining your cards first. Rushing through it is how you make critical mistakes. Alrighty, whatever you say. Before proceeding, Twilight took a deep breath and studied her newly drawn cards again. Placed the armor plate assist tool on dinosaur, which grants its immunity from effects of attacks. And finally, she jabbed a hoof at an attack listed on the card. For 3 energy, I'm going to play Sonic Nightmare for 130 hit points. Pinky, keeping a smile on her face, applied the appropriate damage counters to her active monster. Ooh, just one off, she said. You got close. Thank you. Too bad it's all for naught. Twilight's eyes widened slightly as she watched as Pinky picked up a card and got the snowball rolling right down the hill. I'm going to play 5 monsters onto my bench, she declared, as she grabbed 5 cards from her hand and began placing them onto the table. Twilight recognized one of the monsters as Crozon, not just his usual basic form, but its Z form. She began to pale. It's one of the Game Breaker cards. She had seen it all too well before, reading stories of players who had been stumped by Crozon. A powerful solar type, its main attack, Cry for Penance, allowed it to flip 3 coins to kill a monster. On the online game, Twilight had found a sneaky hack of sorts, one she was sure worked, even if everyone else told her otherwise. The way it worked was this. If she kept clicking the computer mouse as the coin was being flipped, she could obtain heads, and leaving it alone would make it tails. But this was the real world. She and Pinky were playing a real game, and for whatever reason, Pinky had a tendency to flip heads most of the time. Twilight glanced at her own bench. None of the 4 monsters on it were strong enough to kill Crozon, whether as a OHKO or otherwise. She could feel sweat beginning to pour down her face as her mind began racing through the strategies she had read online. Strategies that she knew would... And I win! Twilight blinked. Her gaze slowly moved towards Pinky's active monster, which already had 4 velocity energies attached to it. Said active monster just so happened to be Crozon. What? How, Pinky? Oh, easy. Pinky waved a hand. See, Crozon has this hidden ability, Celestial Metamorphosis, that allows it to attach 3 unique energies to one of my monsters. I decided to attach them to Crozon. Attached a solar energy to meet the attack cost, and vroom! She giggled. That's what you get for being distracted. Twilight could feel her body physically deflate slightly. But I studied everything. I poured weeks into penning down the best strategies, the best cards, the best meta decks, even... She looked in despair at her own bench, then scoffed. They should ban Crozon. Why? That's only for cards that really break the game, Pinky said. Crozon is the hottest monster in all the meta decks right now. And for good reason. Look at this card. Pinky, I've looked at the card already. I don't... Not that card, silly. Pinky rummaged through her hand, taking out Baby Crozon monster. This one! Twilight stared at it. Her jaw dropped. If this Animon is in your hand at the start of your turn, your active Crozon may use the attacks of any of its evolutions. These attacks are not affected by weakness, resistance, or any effects on your opponent's active Animons. After you've taken 3 turns, put this Animon onto your bench. or discard this Anemone if your bench is full.
So, I used its Memory Fronton ability to use Koizon's UV Flurry for 200 points, which leaves it unable to attack.
Pinky frowned for only a moment.
But it got the job done.
Pinky? Twilight slowly slid off the stool she was sitting on, her corner grabbing her cards and beginning to pile them up. That's the 5th game you've beaten me at. How'd you get so good? The party pony didn't answer right away, instead gathering up her own cards and putting them in her saddlebag. She made sure to grab her lucky coin too, slipping it into the front pocket. All the while a smile remained on her face, even though Twilight's flabbergasted gaze was boring into her. She hopped off the tool and slung the saddlebag along her back, only remembering to grab the official paper template for the game at the last minute and slipping it in. Her mouth opened.
I've been playing this game long before it became an equestrian hit, Twilight.
She looked back at her friend.
That's how.
Twilight just stared in disbelief.
Well, got to get back to the bakery. If you ever want some coolerific tips, come see me.
Pinky began hopping away.
Toodaloo!
Twilight's expression began to twist. Before she knew it, she was galloping back to the castle, saddlebag in teeth and fire in her eyes. As she swung the library door open, Starlight jumped in her seat and stared at the alicorn for a few moments in shock, before a smug smile formed on her face.
Operation Buck Metadex didn't work, huh? You ready to make one now?
A huff of air blew from Twilight's nostrils as her eyes became narrowed. Yes! Good. I'll go get the books. Lol. Twilight, you should know that Pinky is just gonna win no matter what. She has far too much luck on her side. I.e. chaos luck. Admittedly, I immediately thought of Yu-Gi-Oh, but now saying the name out loud, I think this might have been connected to Digimon. I may be completely wrong there though. Never really got into card games, though I did try. I did try both Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, but never could really get into it. But this was a fun one. Sadly true, but this is a fun one. That was The Master of the Metadeck, written by alphaserendi. Hope you all enjoyed, and keep watching that moon, everyone. Bye!